Hey there, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I did these nails inspired by this movie, which inspired all of these memes. Let's get into it. These were nails for a friend. She is a Barbie fan, maybe. I don't know if that's accurate, but she's definitely a very online person and a meme queen, and also a big fan of typography. So for that reason, I decided against my better judgment to try to recreate some Barbie typography on a set of nails that were inspired by all of the recent memes. Are they still recent? They might actually be old at this point, but that were inspired by the Barbie movie, which is coming out soon. So you'll see I just went ahead and quickly slapped on some blue onto these nails. These are medium coffin nails by Après. They're sculpted, and after putting on a base of blue, I am just going in with an art gel in white, really blobbing, as you can see, just blobbing some white spots onto the nails and creating the most basic ombre clouds. Not much of the background is going to be visible, so it's really not too important to me to make this perfect in any way, just sort of setting up the canvas, so to speak. So now I'm going ahead and mixing my own color. I actually really like these Young Nails gels if you are looking for kind of an intro set of art gels. They're not always the most crisp, which I definitely noticed while doing this set, but they are pretty the set is called Mission Control, and it's a pretty good set of basic colors with which you can mix probably whatever you want. So that's what I did. I'm making this light pink, and then you'll see that I'm making kind of just a cross in the middle of the nail, and that's just sort of to map out where I want this little pointy thought bubble. What are these called? I don't know. Whatever this is called. This spiky circle thing. Anyway, it's, as mentioned, kind of like you see in the memes. There's this spiky, glittery, thing, shape in the background. Wow, really good at words today. So yeah, after I have the outline of that down, I'm going in with a slightly larger brush and just filling in the bulk of it. I really don't enjoy using a striping brush to fill in large areas. I know some people do that, and I'm always really impressed, but for me, I just want to do something a little bit bigger, and then I'm going in and filling in all those tiny little triangles. And this was really time consuming, actually. It's definitely sped up. It's not necessarily difficult, although I will say that you can see here, the pointiness gets lost sometimes as you're filling in all of the little spikies. But yeah, with that said, what I liked to do while making this set was to take this silicone tool and just sort of push in all of the edges of the little spikes to get a cleaner line. And don't you worry, I'm not going to make you watch me do 6 of these. 6? Is that the right number? Yes. Basically, I'm doing this on every nail that will have a letter on it. So these are for my friend Kelsey. If you saw the preview, then you will know that. So she has a nice even number of letters in her name. I decided to do the fingers that aren't the thumb and the pinky. I'm not going to name them with the letters of her name. Anyway, so you'll see that I actually went ahead and painted the whole nail with a matte top coat. I think I kind of did an extra step here. I was worried about sugaring on glitter directly onto the pink part of this nail, partly because I wanted a crisp line underneath, already established, if the glitter didn't stick to every single part, and I didn't want to mess that up by sugaring, I mean. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry, I'll show you in a second what sugaring is. But yes, I'm taking a clear gel and just filling in all the little spikies, all the center, basically just going over the whole shape that I created in the last bit. And this was a little bit finicky. The reason I went in with the matte top coat behind it was so that I could just better see what I was doing, to try and get nice clean lines. But yes, also you'll see that I couldn't find a cuticle pusher. So I'm using a little like swatch stick to scoop the glitter without curing that gel that I just laid down. I'm scooping and pouring glitter directly onto the gel pretty lightly. I don't want to like smush this in. I want to just pour it directly on top, lightly tap off any excess, just so that you're getting a clear cure, I guess. So there's not just like a ton of glitter on top. Curing fully and then going in with a stiff bristle brush. This is the most fun part, in my humble opinion. And giving a nice good scrape to the top, a brush to the top with the brush to get off any excess glitter. And honestly, I think these really retained their shape very well. I feel like this is beautiful just right here. What does it mean? I don't know. You know, like it's just a big holographic glittery pink blob on top of clouds at this point. But I still think like if I walked away from these nails at this point, I would think they looked really cool. But we have more to do. So I'm going ahead and taking a thick gel. I think this is the Build gel from Young Nails, a thick clear gel. And I'm basically encapsulating that rough glitter finish that we have after sugaring. And the reason for that is, of course, I want a smooth surface because I'm going to be painting some detailed work, and I definitely can't paint that directly on top of the rough glitter. So I'm making sure to coat all of the glitter part enough so that I can actually do a little bit of finish filing as well. And I do go ahead and tip it over as well. Pretty much whenever I'm doing any kind of like builder gel layer, I will tip over either a press-on or my own hand, just to allow the gel to do its own self-leveling. So I'm not going to make you watch that process again on all of these nails. I went ahead and did that off camera, and now I'm going in and finish filing. I shouldn't call this finish filing. We're not done yet, so it's not quite finished filing, but basically I want these nails to be in the perfect shape where I can just, top coat them quickly and be done. So there's definitely some unevenness. There almost always is if you're using builder gel, in my experience. Like, it usually makes sense. Maybe I'm a perfectionist, but it usually makes sense to go in and kind of even things out a bit and check on the shape with a file. So that's what I'm doing here. And yeah, I'm going to repeat that on the rest of the nails as well. Just getting it nice and smooth. And then now with that nice smooth surface, I'm going in with a light pink I've created. And I will tell you, I just basically used that magenta color that I had, I guess a darker pink that I had underneath, and added more white to it. That was one cool thing about doing this set. Was that there were just several variations of pink after I did the base layer. So, yeah, I didn't have to mix too many colors. But anyway, I'm going in and creating lines. And I did this set a long time ago. It's been a while now. I think it was in April. But I went to look for the little typography sheet that I referenced while I was drawing these, and I couldn't find it. So I'm sorry for that. I'll pop in something that was maybe kind of similar, but I did just look up Barbie typography, just a Google image search, and tried to find what best matched the 2023 typography. Because there are, as it turns out, very many variations of Barbie font, which makes sense. Barbie's been around for a long time. So I suppose that's not surprising. But yeah, I couldn't find the exact one that I referenced. But yeah, I'm just basically looking at a reference and trying my very best to paint them. One thing that I think is important to note is to kind of keep your eye on scale, because I think it can be easy to forget or lose sight of the size that each letter should be relative to each other. So like the L, of course, should be basically twice the height of the E. And I don't know, I think I did an okay job with this, but it's just something that I think you can easily forget when doing lettering sets. So it's something to maybe plan out beforehand, or just keep very much at the forefront of your mind, just making sure that you don't have letters that kind of don't make sense next to each other size-wise. So yes, what else do I have to say about this? I found anything that was rounded pretty difficult. The L was blissfully easy. I think I'm doing the K here, which was not super hard. And you'll see that I'm picking up the L, since, you know, the L should have roughly the same height as that. You know, I wish I knew typography terms right now. But as the straight part of the K, I guess, right? So yeah, going ahead and just comparing the two was helpful to make sure that, again, that scale is making sense. Yes, another thing that I noticed was using a dotting tool to get all of these little like rounded serif-y kind of things. Is that the right word? I don't know. Someone I'm sure can correct me if that's not. But yeah, using a dotting tool, as always, like whenever you're trying to get a circular shape, it can be really difficult to do with a brush. So it might be easier to just go ahead and try a dotting tool. I found the S to be really difficult, really very hard. And I think that I cut out a lot of like just wiping off first attempts, which, if you are new to this sort of thing, which I am, I think I've only really done one other kind of typography set or lettering set, hand lettering set. Maybe that's what it's called. It was an Old English set, which I think is probably a little bit easier than this more like rounded style. Yeah, so I'm pretty new to this, and yeah, I think you probably should not be shy to just wipe off a bad shape if you're really not hitting, if you're not capturing the essence of a letter. Maybe just, you know, get rid of it and start over again. If you're anything like me and you're not working on a client or another person, you have the luxury to do that, right? So sometimes you just have to know when to stop and say, this is not worth fixing. This just needs to start over. Anyway, this was definitely a learning experience for me. And I will say, speaking of lessons learned, I didn't end up doing this set until like 3 a.m. or something wild for little old granny me. It was way late when I finished this, and I literally was like seeing crossword, seeing cross-eyed. Wow. Okay. Am I seeing crossword right now? Speaking of which, this friend is from Crosswords, which some of you will know. I am part of a crossword community online, and yes, some of you will know that, but if you didn't, yes, that's the case. I am kind of a nerd. Anyway, I was basically cross-eyed by the end of this set, and you know, looking at it, I wish that I would have just stopped right around here, actually, before doing this last step, and just walked away. I wish I would have just walked away, gone to sleep, and then done the rest of it in the morning. But alas, I just think it would have been a little bit neater if I was approaching it with fresh eyes. But that's okay. So what I'm doing here is I just added a little bit more of that deep, like kind of fuchsia pink into a small part of the pink that I had mixed to make basically a shadowing shade, a deeper shade. And one cool thing about this is because there's a little bit of like a there's this little darker accent. You can sort of carve out maybe some mistakes. You can cover up some mistakes. You can carve out letters that might be a little bit too thick, or lines that might be a little too thick. So you do have that leeway because you're going in with this little bit of like a darker outline in certain areas. So yeah, that was kind of convenient, but yeah, it was a little bit messy. And I do think, I mentioned this in a previous video, but the more that you introduce like acetone and alcohol into the cleanup process, which I was doing here, you can kind of see I'm using one of these little, they're like dental applicators, these little teeny tiny, I think they're like literally called dental applicators or something. But I'm using that with a little bit of acetone and alcohol to do cleanup. And the more I introduced any type of acetone and alcohol in, there was a little bit of like fuzziness on the lines that really irked me. So I think if I were to have done this again, I would have just not really cleaned up and just sort of have cleaned off the nail entirely up until the point where I got the perfect line, like in one clean line. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, here we are. We're at the end. I am using the Izemi top coat. I believe this was actually in low, or is it in high? I can't actually tell. But anyway, I'm using that as the final coat. Very happy to be finishing these off. Not quite done yet though. I'll show you how I made sure that these were like extra presentable and had a nice finish to them. So just slapping that on, curing, and then here we have them. I don't know, they're pretty cute. I do have like a serious perfectionism streak. So anyway, you can see that, yeah, there's some polish on the edges there. And sometimes what happens when you do nails in general, press-ons as well, is especially when you're working with square shapes, the more polish you put on, the more kind of like rounded the edges get. They just sort of, the product domes a little bit and creates these more rounded edges. So I did go in and finish file, which I guess I only left one nail in to show you that I finished filed the edges, just to get off any polish and to make the shape a little bit more crisp. And then here I am just popping these bad boys onto a little index card with some double-sided tape. This is like always my favorite part. I left it in here because I find it really satisfying to see these all go on. But yeah, what do you think of these? I hope you enjoy them. Kelsey does enjoy them. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I don't know that she'll wear them. I think they might just be more fun to look at. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, they were really fun to make and they were a challenge for me. Do you feel like they capture the whole like Barbie vibe? I was thinking I could have definitely added a little bit more on maybe the thumb and the pinky, but I kind of liked keeping them, instead of like super Barbie themed, more like the Barbie meme themed, and kind of more with a focus on lettering just because of Kelsey's interests. So anyway, yeah, just finishing it off. Thank you so much for being here. I hope if you enjoyed this, you will like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you sometime in the future. Have a good one. Bye.